Hey guys, so this is Seven Wonders of Saint Clementine. It's a horror thriller visual novel. It's a little teaser, so not the full thing. But I figured I'd check it out. It's free on Itch.io if you are interested. I'll be sure to leave all the links down in the description for you guys to check it out for yourself. Alright, so let's get started. Say tried to remember why he was there. He tried to remember while he was there. Okay. After a long, awkward conversation he had with Suzu Sensei about the legend of St. Clement that afternoon, he smelled something fishy. That's why he thought he needed to do this. He'd sneak into the infirmary to find out the truth. Clenching his fists and calming his nerves, Sei took a deep breath. Despite his fears, he knew he wouldn't be able to accomplish much if he was shaking. It was almost midnight, and as he expected, the infirmary was already locked. Nevertheless, it wouldn't stop him from entering the room, especially not after he had gotten all the way there. Not after what had happened. He took a penknife out from his pocket and poked it tactfully into the keyhole. To think that lockpicking would actually come in handy, He sighed and wiped sweat from his forehead, poking around the penknife in the slot. Click. Okay, there it is. After a few moments of trials and error, he managed to do it, and the door clicked open. Sei looked at the door, feeling a wave of uneasiness wash over him. He knew something was wrong. Something felt off, yet he couldn't quite pinpoint it. Sighing, he let out a deep, stressed breath. Come on, I know I have to. I have to bring Yudo back. Despite his outward confidence, fear lingered in his voice. Carefully, Sei pushed open the old wooden door. Here it was, sitting before him, the infirmary. It came down to this. Was he going to do it after all? Was he going to enter? Immediately, the pungent, aromatic smell of incense burst into his nose from within. It startled him, causing him to fumble inside, leaving the door half opened. Suzu Sensei once told him that she used a homemade incense to help her patients feel more relaxed. Admittedly, he definitely did feel relaxed from just a small whiff of the incense. Beyond relaxing, though, it was oddly nostalgic. It reminded him of something. Suzu Sensei told him that the incense was originally intended to be a gift for Ryu Sensei. That fact alone brought a smile to Sei's pale, tired face. He whispered to himself under his breath, reflecting on his predicament. I guess love can make people do impossible things sometimes after all, huh? Though the aroma helped him to feel relaxed, he still couldn't brush off the anxiety from within him. It ate at him, tearing into his stomach. Sweat ran down the sides of his face. But regardless, he knew what he had to do. He had to proceed. He had to go further. The infirmary at night was just as he had imagined. Moonlight was the only source of lighting within. It provided a dim light that hung over the room like a blanket. On the left side of the door, the nurse's table sat adjacent to the wall. Across from it, there was an open window which faced toward the chapel's garden. 3 single beds lined up on his own left, separated by simple white curtains, which were given a faint bluish tint by the moonlight. On the far side of the room, there was another window which gave a view of the darkening woods outside. A long, comfy-looking sofa sat under the window. Typically, this was used as an additional emergency bed. To Sei's right were 2 large wooden cabinets full of medicine and other supplies. Behind those cabinets, there was a ladder that led to a small attic door. It was supposed to be locked. No one used the attic anymore. Sei could see a pinkish door from where he stood in the room. A metal tall file was standing firmly next to the wooden cabinet, partially hiding the ladder. He knew he needed to move fast. Inching toward the nurse table, he started to search for any kind of clue he could. He opened the drawer, checked through various books and files, and opened some boxes. Despite all he did, the more he searched, the more frustrated he grew as he found nothing of value. He stayed for a little while longer. He had to investigate everything thoroughly. Oh my god. Something had to be here. It had to. Growing more impatient, he scanned files from inside the metal cabinet and looked through the wooden drawers, but still found nothing. As Say disappeared or desperately searched for something, anything, he couldn't help but catch a glimpse of the darkened woods outside the far window. The waving leaves and dried branches of the woods, caught in the night's wind, looked akin to hundreds of skeletal hands drowning in the ocean waves. His face turned cold and panic started to crawl into his heart. His fear was catching up to him. The silence around him, the darkness, the dim moonlight, it was playing tricks on his mind. The shadows cast by the leaves into the room began to take the shape of monstrous figures dancing about on the ground and tree trunks outside. For a moment he felt his breath crawl away from him as the darkness in the woods grew. Fear was consuming him. Say put the file back into the drawer and hurriedly moved toward the window. He had to close it. It all had to stop. All of it. He snuggled closer to the wall near the window and carefully peeked through it, looking down over the surroundings below him. Something was moving. Something that... No, it couldn't be. It was just his imagination. He swore that he had seen something behind those bushes a second ago. Was it security? Was it another student? Was it something else? Wiping sweat from his forehead, he stopped to take another deep breath. He had to reassure himself. Everything would be all right. It had to be. It must just be one of the teachers on night watch duty. Everything's okay. I'm just tired is all. He forced himself to continue his search, hoping to distract his mind from everything. The sounds from outside grew louder. He couldn't help but feel more anxious. Sorry, reading makes me sleepy. He stopped. His hands tensed up. He found himself paralyzed with fear. As if some mysterious power had turned his head from him, he instinctively turned to look outside. Meow. Damn it! He cursed to himself, but at the same time felt relieved. All the tension built up in his body had completely disappeared. Oh well, I can't let a cat distract me. I knew it was nothing. Meow. The cat seemed frozen in its place, unmoving. Meow meow. Its meows grew louder and more urgent. Say couldn't ignore it any longer. He realized that the cat was laying with its stomach to the ground and tail curling over body. It was frightened, but by what? He was getting anxious again, but it was just a cat. He tried to remind himself that everything was okay. Just a cat. Just a cat. It's just a cat. Walking over, he leaned forward and shakily opened the window. What's up, buddy? Come here. Don't be afraid. The cat started to raise its paw as if to make a single step. A hand shot from the darkness, grabbing the cat with a powerful grip. The sound of bone cracking echoed throughout the empty infirmary. Slowly, a figure emerged from the darkness, a grotesque abomination unlike anything Say had ever seen in his life. A nightmare, this had to be. The figure dragged its feet scoffingly, twitching violently with every step closer. Scraggly long hair sat like writhing snakes, covering the creature's face. Say couldn't breathe. He was paralyzed with fear, staring into a bloodied face, hungry for prey. Its mouth was wide open, its tongue stuck out like a fat maggot, throbbing with drool, dripping to the ground below. Her clothes were dirty, but still identifiable. Even in this state, he could tell that it was the old infirmary nurse uniform. Then it had to be. From the legends, it was the dead nurse, St. Clement. Say could see a black trail of blood which stained her. It gushed from the empty space in the top of her skull, painting her already dirty white clothes in black. He took a step back, too scared of what lay in front of him. Fumbling in fear, he fell backwards. That's how I interpret that. A gruesome, choked voice came from the beast before him. He felt himself freezing up, almost paralyzed with fear. It's okay. Everything's okay. Everything will be okay. He dragged himself away from the window, dashing to try and hide under the nearest bed. No eyes, and she lost her left ear. She can't see me. She can't hear me, right? Calm down, calm down. But St. Clement slogged forward, slowly stepping toward him on the infirmary's cold floor. Her rotten feet made a popping sound with every step. Say felt tears running down his cheeks. He gagged himself with both of his hands. He knew he couldn't let out a scream. But the horror of the rotten figure before him was too much. He didn't know how long he could. No, he couldn't. His breathing slowly crept toward hyperventilation. Deep breaths, slow breaths. It's okay, everything okay. Everything will be okay. He felt himself breaking out in a cold sweat as if he had awoken from an extended nightmare. But the rotting body was still there, still moving toward him. Every pore of his body told him to do something. And ooh. Okay. So we're gonna stay. No, it was too dangerous. He had to choose to ignore his body's natural reaction to run. He had to trust his instincts instead. He stayed in place, shaking with fear. A sound coming from the file cabinet. It was a book that Say had misplaced. St. Clement seemed to react to it, facing its direction. She was standing there, waiting for nothing. It had seemingly deemed that there was no living thing in that direction. While she had neither ears nor eyes, she was clearly sensitive to sound. She could tell from the vibrations. Say had to be careful. He couldn't make even the slightest sound. But that rotten smell, a smell beyond anything made for humans, the smell of rotting flesh, of clotted blood, the smell of death. While trying to control his breathing, Say could hear St. Clement whispering to herself in a raspy, choked voice. Okay. The rotten figure resumed her stride to the back of the wooden cabinet, and despite its weak-looking legs, climbed the ladder upward into the attic. Slowly, her figure disappeared into the darkness above. Say waited for a moment. He had to make sure the rotten corpse wasn't coming back. Suddenly, a primal urge washed over him. Follow her into the attic. Why would you follow her into the attic? Why wouldn't you leave? I would leave. He found himself engulfed in a trance-like state. Carefully, Say climbed the ladder himself up into the darkness of the attic above. The door had been opened. He took a look around. Something was laying on the attic floor. Say crawled closer. Before him, he found an old photo of a beautiful woman in an infirmary nurse uniform, holding a beautiful tiara in her hand. She looks familiar. She looked like... He took a deep breath, trying to calm himself again. She wasn't here. Everything was okay. Say turned the photo around. On the other side, he found a date. It must be when the photo was taken. Holding the photo in his shaky hands, he traced his finger over the beautiful woman's figure. That's creepy. I'm sure I've met her somewhere before. This woman. I know her. He stuffed the photo in his pocket and, with nothing else to be seen, made his way out of the attic. Taking a deep breath, he exited the infirmary, leaving it in a dark silence once more. Alright, and that is the teaser for Seven Wonders of St. Clementine, the horror thriller visual novel. It's cool. I mean, there's not a lot to go off of. It was really super short, but it was cool. Sorry, reading makes me super sleepy, so I yawned a lot. I want to yawn right now. But I will leave all the links down below in the description for you guys to check it out if you want to. If you like this video, please leave me a like down below, maybe even a comment to let me know what you think about it. And I hope to see you guys the next time that I play anything. Bye!